Guys, it's River Dave with GlamourStudents.com. I'm standing here with Chris Redden from R3 Fabrication, and we are looking at a new build here. And we're gonna have Chris take us through it and show us some of the features of it, why he does some of the things he does, and tell us about the car. So this is the R3 four-seater. The name is in development.
Yeah, we're working on it still.
Yeah.
Putting something down. I want something that's easy to remember to people.
The Master Blaster or something like that. Anyhow, take us through the car from the front to the back here.
So the car is a 4-seat dual sport car. It's extremely light for as big as it is. Most cars that are on 40-inch tires are 4,000 pounds and above. I think we're one of the only cars that's going to be in the 3,400 pound range. Fully dressed.
That's about what my speed weighs.
Yeah, fully dressed. So that's everything. That's fuel cell. That's all the water, the seats, completely done. Body, window, all the electronics, everything. Start at the front. We have Law Design lights, which are my personal favorite. They help us out with all the racing stuff, and they're just the best light I've ever ran. Customer support's great with them. King Shocks, Brett King, those guys take care of us too. I love their customer support as always.
Got a massive bulkhead right here.
Yeah, the car itself is it's a dual sport car, but it looks really heavy because this is so big, but it's not that heavy at all. I mean, I could stand in the middle of that chassis and pick the whole thing up. Yeah, it's heavy, but I could pick the whole car up by myself. Just because it's not overbuilt. I mean, you have your main rails and stuff are 120, and then uprights are 9.5, and mid rails are 9.5, and then lacing is 0.65, and it's 1.5 tube, 1.25 tube, and it's basically designed like a race car. It's not just your typical car that's an 1.75, 1.5, 0.95 car that the whole thing's one size and that's what it is.
So to talk about that for a second, you lay these entire cars out in CAD.
Yeah, we've had them engineered and drawn, and they're completely drawn in CAD, and everything comes into play. I mean, loads and all that stuff, and it's all figured out to be safe but as light as possible.
Right.
So my thing is, I wanted it to be light because I want to be able to use it the sand because I love the sand, but I also like going to Mexico. So we were able to take the thing and put dirt tires on it, go to Mexico and do 1,000 miles in it, not have to worry about the car just coming apart. So
absolutely. So now back here you got your, what's this, your hydraulic steering here?
Yeah, so you got a big rack. We're running a 2.5-inch turbo truck rack or buggy rack, like a widespread forged throw, to sweet servo, and so it's a hydraulic power steering. Which is pretty standard in almost all cars nowadays that are big. There's some sand cars that still will use like a wrap with a power assist deal, whether it be electric or like a Charlene unit. Being that this thing's on 40s and stuff, you have to run a big rack. And then from there, we went with the entire car is hardline. There's no soft lines in the entire car except for from the chassis to the part, minimum like 8 inches, 10 inches of soft line to any given piece or component on the car.
And that's important for brake fade, things like that, right?
I mean, just fluid. Anytime a line gets old and it gets hot and expands and stuff, I mean, they start to sweat over time, and you see so many cars that are nice and you got sand or dirt stuck to the lines because they've sweated, they've been overheated. Or if a guy that owns the car doesn't know and they go overheat a trans or a motor or whatever, and then they cook a line, they don't realize it, and it leaks. So I try to minimize all that by doing these cars that way, and that's pretty much the only way we will do it. If somebody wants to build their own car, we give them a chassis, and they build their own car, they're more than welcome to do whatever they want plumbing-wise. But if we build it, we're gonna do everything hardline.
So what am I looking at right here?
So these are all brakes. So we use Tilton's Masters or Wilwood pedals. And then off of the brakes, there's residual valves here for the front and then residual down there for the rear. So it's basically keeps pressure on the brake caliper to where the pads don't knock apart and then you lose brakes. So when you go to hit the brakes, they're there. So they're like a 3-pound or a 4-pound, depending on what you want to do.
Why is there 2 brake pedals?
There's 1 clutch and 1 brake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, what the hell are we even talking about here? Yeah.
1 clutch, 1 brake. We're going to build a car that's going to be a converter car. So it will only have 1 pedal, but that's a little ways off still. But yeah, come down, and then the shifter, Wilwood shifter, and Wilwood turn brake. I enjoy turn brakes. A lot of guys say they don't need them, they don't want to use them. I like them because I like to slide my car and play around with it. So if it's always an option. Behind the dash will be the PCI Kenwood big radio. They're 110 watt radio. It'll get full car to car. It has Holley dash. It uses ECU master for all the PDUs. Basically the brains that operate everything in the car will be through ECU master stuff. It's got seat sliders, seat heaters. It has a heater.
Yeah, so it's got electric seats, right?
Yep, electric seats. It'll have a heater, an actual heater with blowers and vents and everything built into the dash and the body and everything. Come back here. You walk right fast. The car
Just talk to me like I'm 2 years old for a second. You got your shifter and you got your turn brake. What's the third one?
Reverse. So this one's reverse. It'll be connected, obviously, and then so you put in neutral and then you pull that one back and then it's in reverse because it's S4D. So Mindiolas, that's how they're built, or Weddles, that's how they are. And then if you go to an Albin's, it's an electronic one, and then same thing with the Ford, it's an electronic. You just hit a button and it goes into reverse, but these ones are actually levered. Yeah, so seat sliders, all that stuff, hardline. Back here we put fire suppression in all of them.
You're gonna actually have to look down in there, Michael.
That white bottle down there is fire suppression. This car has air compressor, onboard air compressors. It has a water tank with a water, like basically pressurized water. It'll have a little mini hose reel that comes out that works through the water and the air pressure. You just flip a valve and it uses either one.
And the water, just so you know, guys, I asked him earlier, I says, why do you put water in a rail? And he says, dude, you know, you're down in Mexico and it's dusty. He says, the windshield. He goes, you can hose the windshield off. He goes,
Yeah, you hose the windshield off.
Your kids are eating Cheetos. You can wash their hands, you know.
Every time I stop, my kids got soda on their hands and everything else. So wash your hands, do whatever, you know what I mean? Keep stuff clean. And these cars are nice. They're not cheap. I mean, nowadays to build a car, it's almost $200,000 in parts. It's unreal. It used to be able to build a car for 85 grand, 90 grand with the motor and everything. Granted, it wasn't a big crazy motor, but these motors are $45,000 now. Trainees are 25 to 50, just depending. There's motors out there that are 100 grand. Believe
yeah, well, cheaper. It used to be $3 now.
Yeah,
it's 8, right?
It's just insane. Hubs are $10,000. Shocks are $10,000 to $15,000. Even seats are $1,200 to $1,300 a seat. It's like, holy cow. Seat belts used to be $90 at $300 now.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow.
So take us through all the stuff above all that.
Yep. So you got a cooler, all the electrical, everything's basically up high. I didn't want anything low in these cars because when they're low, if you go through a wash or anything like that in Mexico, you get water in it. The sand is also very, very hard on electrical. Every car I know that the electrical system's under the seat, they have all kinds of issues, whether relays are always going bad, fans are always tripping on and off, burning up stuff. And it's because the sand gets in there and electrolysis and stuff, and it just, they short out. And I try to keep them up, and I try to keep all the plugs facing down so you never have a plug filling up the computer or whatever with sand or water. This will all be completely closed in. It'll have screens and body will come up. You won't see any of this stuff. Come back, you got all the cooling and stuff for it. You have big radiator built just for this car because it's the size we needed, the angle we wanted, all the stuff with the way the roof's going to be built. Tried to figure all that out as best as we could to be able to get the air out, have enough space behind the radiator to get the air out of the radiator as well as get it in it, because a lot of things you see with sand cars, it's not so bad because you're not wide open for very long. When you're going across the desert for 45 minutes at a time, these guys they're cooking. They're 85, 90 miles an hour the whole time, so it's got to go like a race car. Yeah. And it can't pack air. Got to be able to get the air out, get the air in. So hopefully I've done it long enough. I figured it out before I did it, but we'll see.
We got faith in you.
Yeah,
so what's the tranny on this one?
This is a Weddle, their S5D. It's their big sequential trans. It's got big McLeod clutch. It's a big boy. The thing's supposed to do like 140 miles an hour with these tires.
Oh, shit.
And this is a Redline LS7. I think it's like 650-ish, roughly.
Might want to turn around and look at the camera.
Yeah. So this thing should be like 650 horsepower. We did, Johnny Branch built the headers for it, which none of this is done yet. We're actually probably, the body's going to be, it's going to come out kind of like a Tatum or a Racer, or I mean even a Limacraft. We all have these caps now we build for the back of the body, and we're actually going to hide the air filters in the caps, and the air filter is going to be kind of here and up, and then we want to run the exhaust, and probably going to change the tips. We want to run the exhaust up and then do the exhaust flat on the top of the the body to where the exhaust just looks like it sits there and it comes out top of the fenders.
Really?
So just be something different. And like I told the guy that owns it,
about rain?
I'm like, what if it rains? He's like, how many times do I gotta sit my car in the rain? I'm like,
I was gonna say, aren't you concerned about rain?
yeah. He's like, I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'll put a plate over it. I'm like, whatever, dude. I'm like,
You like the old diesel deals, you know?
yeah. So like he said, he's like, how often does your car sit in the rain? I've had off-road cars for a long time. I don't think I've ever had one of them just sit in the rain. I've washed it and it's got water in it, but if you wash it, start it up, within 2 minutes, everything's burned out of the exhaust anyways. They're all stainless steel exhausts. You're not going to hurt anything. So
You could even just drill a little tiny hole on a low point.
yeah,
right?
you could
Let
put
it
a
drain.
drain in it or something if you really had to. I don't think it could be an issue. We'll see. We're going to play with it a little bit. And it might even make it to where it comes up and maybe they just turn out and then have like a cool little,
That's cool.
like a fish cut on them or something.
So this car right here, I mean, obviously this thing is over the top and it's fully loaded. Would you mind disclosing a price in 2025 for something like this?
They're going to start for a car with like a motor like this, the same training package. They're going to start at like $265. That's body. That's no paint. It'll be powder coat, but no paint because, I mean, paint jobs are
Yeah.
$2,000 to
Yeah.
50 grand. It all
Unlimited, yeah.
depends on what the customer wants. But that's, I mean, there's not much bigger stuff. I mean, this thing is a 4-seat dual sport car. If you look at the size of this car and the parts on this car, and you look at that, that's a race car. This car will do what that car will do. And
Right.
it's 4-seat, 100% it will.
So that's 265 all in, but with powder coat.
265, that's for roughly a 650 horsepower car. It's Holly dashes. That's ECU masters for all your electronics and stuff, which their stuff is waterproof up to 100 years underwater, which is crazy. So
At that
if
point,
anybody's
you got bigger problems.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think you're gonna have any issues. So.
That doesn't sound unreasonable to me,
No.
especially when you add up the parts you said are approaching
yeah.
$200,000.
So we've quoted out a couple other cars to do like some really big horsepower and some other stuff, and they get up there. They're like in the 300s, 320, 330. But even
That's
that-
power specific.
Yeah, and that's big, crazy power. So that's like 3,000 horsepower car. So there's definitely a difference in price when you start getting into stuff like that, and then there's some stuff, and if you start adding a bunch of stuff and doing, you can make it go up fairly quick. I mean, you can add 20 grand.
Yeah, just random
Very fast.
stuff. Yeah. Oh, you want your little Starlight
Yep.
roof
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever, you know?
One of my buddies just did it in his car, and it looks sick. It's a lot of work, but it looks cool.
Well, guys, I think that concludes our R3 4-seater. We're still working on the name. I was joking around earlier with the Master Blaster, but I kind of like it. So anyhow, Chris, thanks so much for taking us through the car. And we're going to keep you guys updated on the progress of this car as it gets built. Before I let you go, if I came in today and I said, you know, here's my deposit, what's the build time?
No more than 9 months right now. If you brought me money, if you have the funds to build it right now, we can order parts. The longest thing is going to be as a motor and a trans. We have 3 more chassis, 4-seat chassis sitting here, and we have 2-seat chassis on order, which we should have in like 10, 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it just depends on how your money goes. If you have the money to do it, I can 100% guarantee I have a car in minutes.
So that's actually pretty fast for a custom built car.
Right now it is. If we get as big as the rest of these guys, it'll obviously all that changes because they'll have back orders and big logs, people wanting stuff.
Oh, and you get your shop built.
Yeah, that'll help a lot of stuff. Because then you could do multiple. Right now we're so limited, which we should be done with that in like 8 weeks. So we're right before summer. Hopefully everything goes right.
All right, guys, we'll keep you updated on it. GlamourStudents.com. Thank you so much again, Chris, for your time and for the tour of the shop.